The Many Faces of Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro was 5 feet 2 inches and extremely prepubescent when, in the mid-1990s, he enrolled as a sophomore at a private Jewish high school in Los Angeles. The scrawny new kid had skipped ahead 2 grades, was too smart, talked too much, and got brutally bullied. Things came to a head when, on an overnight school trip, a few of Shapiro's classmates handcuffed him to a bed and beat him with their belts. "I hate bullies," the conservative commentator, now 5 feet 9 inches and a workout enthusiast, told me over lunch. "I think bullies are evil. From the time I was pretty young I had to grow a thick skin. You can either feel like you're victimized or you can decide that success is the best revenge." Shapiro first hit my and many other left-wing radar screens in March 2016, when he called out the bullies at Breitbart News. A Breitbart reporter named Michelle Fields had been physically assaulted after a Donald Trump press conference by Corey Lewandowski, who was then Trump's campaign manager. When Fields complained, Lewandowski said Fields was delusional and denied the incident had occurred. Trump spokeswoman Hope Hicks suggested Fields was just angling to get attention. Despite a Washington Post writer's eyewitness account corroborating Fields, and, later, video evidence, the editors at Breitbart opted to accept the Trump team's brazenly false version of events over the word of their own reporter, which made Shapiro furious. Shapiro had known Breitbart's founder, Andrew Breitbart, ever since he emailed to compliment a column Shapiro wrote for the Daily Bruin as a 16-year-old undergrad at UCLA. Breitbart eventually hired Shapiro, years later, but died a month after Shapiro came aboard. Under a new boss, Steve Bannon, Breitbart News cozied up to the Trump campaign and to the burgeoning alt-right movement. Shapiro was disgusted by both. The treatment of Fields was his breaking point. "In my opinion, Steve Bannon is a bully," he said in a statement at the time, explaining his resignation from Breitbart, and has sold out Andrew's mission in order to back another bully, Donald Trump. He has shaped the company into Trump's personal Pravda. If you remember this dark chapter of the election cycle, you'll recall that, among his cohort, Shapiro's stubborn acknowledgement of plain fact at the risk of offending the Trump campaign qualified as a brave and self-destructive act. In March 2016 I wrote a piece that went viral on the right, conservative pundit Jonah Goldberg told me when I called to talk about Shapiro, likening the change in the GOP to invasion of the body snatchers. Some psychological trigger was flipping. It was disturbing. When everything seemed really crazy, Ben and I would talk and compare notes. There was this underground mentality. You made new friends in foxholes. Fields got little support from other right-wingers. When the whole ordeal happened, Breitbart immediately threw me under a bus, she told me. Close colleagues abandoned me. Fox took me off the air. People didn't want to alienate Trump. I was in this storm and Ben reached out to me and said he wanted to jump into the storm with me. He knew it would hurt him with his base, with people that liked him. Shapiro's stand put him in the crosshairs of more bullies, attracting a hail of anti-Semitic harassment from Trump's hordes of deplorables. Shapiro would open his inbox each day to see images of himself photoshopped into gas chambers, yellow Jewish stars pinned to his chest. There were death threats and threats to his family. The reason they came after me, Shapiro says, was because I was anti-Trump, I was openly orthodox, and I had worked for Breitbart. That combination was absolutely toxic. A report by the Anti-Defamation League, covering August 2015–July 2016, found that Shapiro was the direct target of at least 7,400 anti-Semitic tweets. This made him easily the most targeted journalist in the study. And the abuse hasn't stopped. The morning I visited his office, roughly a year after the election, Shapiro discovered that alt-righters had gotten around to doxing his sister, who was an opera singer, and were spamming her YouTube clips with anti-Semitic messages. During the campaign, a bunch of talk radio people were treating the alt-right as just another legitimate member of the Republican coalition, says Goldberg, who was the sixth most targeted journalist on that ADL list. A lot of the GOP establishment and the cable news establishment said, these guys are a social media force. Aren't they interesting? But people like Ben knew that anyone forming an alliance of convenience with those guys wasn't someone you wanted anything to do with. It's tempting to view all this through the lens of Shapiro's high school nightmare. To create a psychoanalytic narrative in which the indignation of that bound and beaten kid animates Shapiro's better impulses. In his noblest moments, after all, he has bucked his party and stood up to some of the most despicable bullies of our era. Perhaps it was because he'd been bullied before, and worse than most, that he held his ground when it would have been far easier, personally and professionally, to accede to the Trump avalanche. But there's an addendum to that high school story. Shapiro's father came to the school to confront the students who'd bullied Shapiro. My dad came into the room where the kids who'd done this to me were, Shapiro told me, and the rabbi started talking, and my dad said, "Shut up." And then he said to the kids, "I have a ball-peen hammer in the back of my car and I will take it to you if you ever touch my son again." He did not actually have a ball-peen hammer in his car. That's a pretty indicative story of who my dad is. Those kids didn't bother me from then on. Ben's dad, David Shapiro, confirmed the bullying incident and his response to it but told me he would not have said "shut up" to a rabbi. Here we find a different formative lesson: posturing with bared teeth will cow your foes into submission. In Shapiro's lowest moments as a pundit, he is victim-turned-aggressor. Quick to mock, devoid of empathy, obnoxiously cocky. Shapiro may despise Trump, but he chooses to focus most of his ire on the president's favorite punching bags, the mainstream media, the Hollywood elite, and the carcass of Hillary Clinton. After Trump's Charlottesville comments, Shapiro called the president responsible for mainstreaming the alt-right and declared that granting them a smidgen of respectability is morally disgusting. But Shapiro has also claimed there is no evidence of systemic discrimination against minorities by police departments and maintains that President Obama purposefully divided Americans by race.